I'm waiting for, I'm
okay.
calling from, I'm
Did
just
you?
waiting for him to get back
Okay,
with you.
all right.
Yep, already did.
I'm waiting on you to get back to me.
Good evening, everybody. Call the Wednesday, September 26, 2018 meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Supervisor Glabe,
Here.
Schott,
Here.
Patterson,
Here.
Trustee Glabe,
Here.
Lazier,
Here.
Katie here, McLennan,
Here.
you have a quorum.
Item 4 is approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve?
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5 is approval of the consent agenda.
So move.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Schott,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Trustee Glabe,
Yes.
Lazier,
Yes.
Katie, yes, McLennan,
Yes.
Supervisor Glabe.
Yes. We'll open up the meeting to brief public comments. Anybody wishing to come forward, please do. Seeing none, we'll move on.
No, I haven't raised my hand yet.
Well, please, come forward.
Mary Collins. There's a couple things. First of all, I'd like to ask this board, what's the reason for the 9-member board, which is overseeing the racetrack property? That was brought up that was mentioned at an LDFA meeting the other night. Of the 9 members that are on the board, 3 of them are from this township. So guess what, folks? We're gonna get outvoted every time by the county and the county wannabes. I don't know what the reason is for this board. And if we think that the county, whether they have a board or a meeting or whatever they have, is gonna do anything for us in regard to this racetrack property, we're fooling ourselves. They haven't done anything in our favor. Can't build a bridge, can't fix the roads, can't put a little tar on some holes in the roads. They do nothing for us. So why would we expect they would do anything in our favor on the racetrack property? And then the other question I have is, does this board have any jurisdiction over the LDFA? If you do, then what I would suggest to you is that you nix the expense that they want to go through to the tune of anywhere from $50,000 to $80,000 to have a new floodplain map in that area made up. And that floodplain map is another joke. I went into the building department to get I figured somebody's got to have a topical and a floodplain map for this community, and there isn't any. There's none. What you have to do is you have to go on the computer, and you have to go under FEMA and hope that you can find something. And the LDFA wants, it was proposed that they spend this money for a new thing, for a new floodplain map. Why that FEMA thought that land was underwater in the first place, I can't understand, because that was all farmland before and there was no water sitting in around anywhere. There's a big, big drainage ditch there. And there's so much water in that drainage ditch that it's all overgrown. You can't even see the ditch anymore. And if is water in there, there aren't any water lilies growing in there. So somebody's got some answers to those questions, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to come forward? Any other hands? Okay, moving on. Brings us to new business. 10A is a intergovernmental agreement with Wayne County relative to the transfer of sewer system. This is a matter that's been brought to our board previously. As a board, we agreed to move forward on a relining of a sewer with the agreement that we would be reimbursed from Wayne County. This final agreement Upon passage, we'll submit to Wayne County, who in turn will submit to their full commission for reimbursement. So this is the final stage in that agreement with Wayne County. So this would be in resolution form that we can submit to them for transfer of the sewer and for reimbursement of the realigning that we accomplished. So motion would be in order.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 18-09-26-10A to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Wayne County relative to the transfer of the sewer system as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please, Mr. Clerk.
Patterson.
Yes.
Trustee Glabe.
Yes.
Lazier.
Yes.
Katie, yes. McLennan.
Yes.
Supervisor Glabe.
Yes.
Shant.
Yes.
Our next item is paid-on-call firefighter hiring for Ryan Wright.
Yes, sir. The board should have received a packet and a resume from Mr. Ryan Wright. Ryan Wright is a gentleman who was our first ever co-op through the Summit Academy. He spent a year with us. He did an outstanding job, very hard worker. He's looking for an opportunity, which we are happy to provide for him. He will, if approved by the board, attend firefighter 1 and 2 and become a paid-on-call firefighter. He has passed a background investigation as requested by the board.
I'll move to hire Ryan Wright as a paid on-call firefighter as presented.
Support.
Discussion? Yeah, I just want to let the board know Ryan worked for the clerk's office for the August election, and he did an excellent job. And the other election workers have asked me emphatically to bring him back. So I'll support this only if I can have him for election day.
Absolutely.
Just, Mr. Clerk, just don't let him swindle you into taking you to the bowling alley?
Yes.
Okay, he's quite accomplished.
I
there.
heard, yep.
Okay, yeah. All right. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Chief. Item 10D is a request for additional hours in the assessing. I'm sorry. Under 10C, we have our second reading for ordinance number 500-15. That's regarding distracted driving ordinance. We had first reading at our last regular scheduled meeting. This would be the second reading to put this into effect. If there's, I don't think there's any further discussion, so in that case, a motion would be in order.
So moved.
Support.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Lazier.
Yes.
Katie, yes. McLennan.
Yes.
Supervisor Glabe.
Yes.
Shant.
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Trustee Glabe.
Yes.
Now to 10D, there's a request for some additional hours in the assessing department with Tim O'Donnell. Lauren Stack, who's been working part-time in that department, some of her hours have been cut back a bit because of her schooling and the semester starting up, which reduces her availability to provide office hours. Additionally, the assessing department is engaged in updating our records pursuant to requests that are coming down on a state level, and part of that is requiring taking pictures of the different parcels and making those part of the permanent file. And so there's some additional work that's being done in the assessing department, which would be greatly enhanced if we were able to increase modestly these additional hours for Mr. O'Donnell.
We have that co-op program in place too, if you think that could help out in that department, so think about that. too.
Sure thing. Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Item 10E is request to hire a part-time elections clerk.
Yes.
Clerk Katie?
Julie, pronunciation again?
Adriana
Yeah.
Teftigan.
Teftigan. Okay, she's gonna get a nickname. I'd like to move, well, a little background. As you know, the clerk's office was approved by the board to go out to do interviews for prospective applicants for a part-time elections clerk position. Most every other township in the state has some form of elections clerk. Huron's kind of just been using everyone we have. So it's a more formal position where we can dedicate a body a few hours a week just to doing election-related stuff. And a lot of people don't realize the election stuff's ongoing all year because of the voter registrations and removing people who either pass or move out of the township from the voter records. So it would just free up our full-time staff to do more daily operational stuff. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the township clerk to hire Adriana Teftigan for the position of part-time elections clerk, in compliance with the part-time pay scale starting at $13 an hour, no more than 29 hours a week.
Support.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll open up the meeting again to public comments. Anybody wishing to come forward? Under department presentations, Chief, take it away.
Yes, sir. Just one thing newsworthy. Many of you have seen today in the newspaper about a hit-and-run accident that involved one of our students walking home from school last night at about 8 o'clock. Although this isn't out in the paper yet, we made an arrest about 4:30 today, so I know we've gotten a lot of calls, people inquiring about the young man. Does have non-life-threatening injuries, and so we did make an arrest about 4:30 today, and we'll be putting a press release out. The second thing that I have is tonight's kind of a proud moment for me. As the board knows, a couple board meetings ago, you approved the hire of Jordan Longenbarger as a full-time patrol officer here in Huron Township. Jordan is here tonight with his mother, and I would like to ask the clerk to swear him in front of the board tonight. Jordan is, for a couple reasons, very special. He is one of our interns. He came here as an intern, worked a year for us for free. He gained the respect of the officers, and he's somebody that really wanted to work here. He was proud enough last Friday to wear our uniform walking across the stage as he hired. He is a good enough candidate. He could have gone anywhere in the state, and he chose Huron Township, which I thank him for that. On a personal level, I've known he and his family for quite some time. Although his sister is the athlete in the family, Jordan is a very good kid, and we are very, very proud to have him. So if the board would entertain it, I would love to have the clerk swear him in.
Please do, Chief.
Jordan and Kate, please come forward.
You got it. Does your mom want to do pictures or anything? Okay, if you want, you can come by the flags and she can do pictures over here.
I can't be that loud, he's already told me.
Please raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your full name.
I, Jordan Tyler Longenbarger,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of this state,
the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
and I will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of police officer
of the office of police officer
in and for the Township of Huron,
in and for the Township of Huron,
County of Wayne,
County of Wayne,
in the state of Michigan,
and the state of Michigan,
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
according to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Make it official. Nice job. All right, to make it official, I need you to print and sign your name on the same line. And then I will get you a copy of that for your records.
I don't think my phone name fits last time.
I know, right? All right. We'll get you a copy of this if you want. You can hang around or if you want to come back tomorrow, whatever you want.
I'll get it for him.
No, I was gonna find out before next week, because I was gonna go to the meeting.
Please, take
It's
your
up to
time.
you. You could ask.
Ready?
You could have asked her where we're sitting. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay. We'll move into comments from the Board of Trustees. Anybody wishing to comment before we go into closed session? Clerk Katie?
Yeah, I just want to let everybody know, I know I sent an email out. November 29th, the Michigan Township Association has a land use educational seminar. Again, that's November 29th. If if anybody's interested from the board, let me know. We'll get a discount if we register before November 14th.
Trustee Patterson?
Yes, in line with our work study sessions we're supposed to have concerning Pinnacle, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the township attorney to investigate the process of removing all LDFA 2 property under the jurisdiction of the township, and report back at the next meeting the process involved.
Okay, there's a motion.
Support?
For discussion.
Under discussion, I'm not opposed to entertaining the motion, but aren't you, I would think we're a little premature. I mean, I think we have to have our discussions before we
Well,
kind of move toward action. I mean, it's kind of like putting the cart before the horse, wouldn't you agree?
I would sort of like to see what the process is too. I think that's important to have that when we have these discussions, so see what's involved. It's probably a couple-month process anyway, so we're gonna have the township attorney start looking into that, let us know what the process is, and have that right in line with the work study.
Well, I would think that from a use of resources and proper use of money, I would think that until we would decide that, it would make sense to remove property from LDFA. I don't know why we'd want to spend money in anticipation of doing that before we've made the decision. So I would just think from a timing standpoint, I think we kind of, again, have the cart before the horse.
Well, March and April's coming up, 6 months away, so.
What's magic about March or April?
The Pinnacle property, Wayne County foreclosure, we don't know what's gonna happen.
Well, I think that would be part of the discussion, but I don't know that it being part of the, necessarily, the LDFA would have an impact on that. And I think that's part of the whole
Well,
discussion.
Their discussion the other night, like a member from the audience said, they're wanting to spend almost $80,000 to change the floodplain. There's money
Well,
being spent right there.
let me speak to that. And again, this is not the place for the workshop, but again, and this is something that's not new to anybody on this board, but it's worth noting that that particular property is subject to floodplain issues. FEMA redrafted some maps and painted with a very broad brush, and it's affecting a lot of properties in our area and other areas around the country. The way I liken it's almost, you're kind of guilty and you have to prove you're innocent. So they basically took a big swath and declared a lot of property in floodplain. There's about 75% of that property in floodplain. Now, that property is useless to anybody with that designation. No one's gonna buy a piece of property that's 75% in floodplain. No bank in America would be stupid enough to loan money to a purchaser of that property with that amount of floodplain. As such, if that property is going to be of value to this township in any shape, manner, or form, whether we are direct owners of it or we create a situation where there is a suitor, a developer that would purchase the property, of course, that we would have oversight. Until that determination is made and a map redrafted, hopefully to reduce the 75% down to something substantially smaller, then anything this board discusses is pretty much useless. And so one of the major steps to having that property put back into productive use is to be able to redraft that FEMA map.
I agree.
And in fact, when you look at the development in Romulus, you take the Amazon project and others in the location there, they had a similar situation, and they had at least that amount in percentage in floodplain. And through a new study, which does take a lot of money, you're paying engineers to study that entire area and to create a map that's appropriate for FEMA to sign off on, they reduced it to about an acre. So that shows you, again, with such a broad brush. So the investment of a engineering firm to redraft a map that would be acceptable to FEMA is, well, it's just an investment that's going to have to be made. Otherwise, unless you would want that property to sit idle forever, which is an option. But if you want that into productive use, that study has to be done. And quite frankly, the sooner the better, because that puts our township in a better position to either acquire it directly from the treasurer's office, Wayne County, and/or to put together an RFP where a potential purchaser would purchase the property. But no one's gonna buy that property, Trustee Patterson, the way it's currently classified.
I agree with the new
Yeah.
floodplain.
Now, we could take money out of the general fund and pay for that study, if that's what you're proposing. What was proposed the other night was the LDFA to use its funds to help finance that study, which is an appropriate use of LDFA funds. In fact, it's a very legitimate use of those funds. That's what the LDFA is designed to do, is to use money in furtherance of the zone to create economic development by way of infrastructure and setting the plate, if you will, for future development. And I think that's why we have to kind of have these discussions before, we kind of, again, as I said before, put the cart before the horse. I understand what your motion is, but I just don't think we're at a point where we really can make that intelligent decision yet.
Well, my only question is when are we having the subcommittee meeting? Has anything been started, or
Yes,
do we have a date?
yeah, so I was arranging that with our chairman of the LDFA, and part of that was their representative, their legal counsel, Brian Courier, has been out of town for a few weeks. We had spoken just as yesterday, so now that Brian's back in town, we're putting together some dates so we can get that together.
Okay.
So that explains that little bit of a delay, just trying to get the right parties together, so.
So, well, I would think that if we wanted, I would think that we should have a meeting first, but I want the meeting like as soon as possible, like within the next couple of
Absolutely.
weeks.
Yeah, I agree.
Before the next board meeting. Or before even the next LDFA meeting.
Well, I have no problem letting our attorney look at the process. We don't have to decide on the floodplain within the next meeting.
So
You can
what,
tell us
so
what
what
the
are you asking?
process-
You
what
just
the-
wanna know, like,
what the
okay,
process
we'd
is
have
gonna
to
be.
start from the state, then we go to this, and then we go to here, just a overview of a process.
Right.
Mr. Glade?
So I agree with what you were saying. I think we need a lot more facts before we develop our conclusions. And I also, as the representative to the LDFA, matter of fact, 3 of our board members were at the last meeting, so what we're discussing tonight is just kind of a refresher, but I don't think it makes sense to look into removing that property before we know that that's a good decision. I quite frankly don't believe it's a good decision right now. So what you're asking for, again, is to spend the time and resource on something that may not even make sense. So I agree, Colleen, I think you agree as well, that let's have that workshop soon, and then from there decide whether or not we're going to investigate something that possibly doesn't make sense. So I would agree with Colleen, though, let's have that meeting quickly so we can get some answers and move forward, because that floodplain is a big issue. It's gonna stop a lot unless we determine what needs to be done. So,
Clerk Katie?
Yeah, I'm not up to speed with where you guys are on this, so, I mean, I guess more of a question for the council. If this was to happen, are we talking like 5 hours, 10 hours, 100 hours? I mean, is it, it sounds to me like,
I don't know, it's all statutory. It's in the statute. There's a process outlined to remove property or add property to an LDFA or a DDA or things like that. It's statutory. The answer is probably not that difficult to find. However, there's certainly not gonna be a whole lot of law on the efficacy of the attempt to move that. We're just gonna take some research.
But that's, I don't think that's what Dave's asking. I think he just wants just the steps. Am I correct? You just want
The
the
steps
steps? So
involved,
that's a
and
matter
if
of
we
just
decide to
finding
remove
it
it.
and making a copy, correct? I don't think we want you to do a ton of research on it.
Well, but I appreciate that, but, you know, I wanna be right, so.
Well, I know, well, if you just take the statute and, I'm,
Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you it's a half hour, it's gonna take me 6 hours to outline the steps that the board would take if they voted to move forward.
Trustee Pierce, would you please restate your motion?
Motion to authorize the township attorney to investigate the process of removing LDFA two back and into the jurisdiction of the township. And report back to the board on the next meeting what he's found.
Well, because I think, if he's gonna quote-unquote investigate the process, that's certainly something less than a legal conclusion, which would require significant more time and effort. But I think what you want is a specific answer as to how that's done.
Right.
And I would not want Mr. Foley just to casually develop a theory or suggestions as to how that might be accomplished, because as it is statutory, it would require, again, some significant research, and I would want to make sure he could spend the adequate time to render a decision and an opinion he's very comfortable with. I don't think we want to put him in an awkward position where we're telling him we want a specific answer as to this question, but we don't want you to spend a lot of time on it. I don't think we want to put him into that kind of a box.
Could we call the motion, I think, this is trustee and board reports. I think we have enough information to make a decision on the motion.
But I do just have one more comment. But however, it might be beneficial to have that going into that meeting. Because then, even at that meeting, whatever we decide, we could say, okay, there's a lot of steps that are involved here, and that's gonna be costly or not costly, or beneficial or not beneficial. Maybe it is, or maybe we should have.
Would it be more appropriate to have an answer for the study session as opposed to coming to the township board?
When's the study session? We haven't scheduled one.
Well,
we're-
it's
Yeah,
in the
and-
process of doing
Yeah,
that.
and I would
Yeah.
think we're gonna have that within a few weeks, so I don't even know that, if that matters a whole, if it's 2 weeks gonna cripple us, or,
Well,
do you need it in 2 weeks?
we have another, we have a meeting coming up, October 3rd, up at the airport, so, those guys aren't sitting by.
Well, let me let me
That's-
just touch on that too, David. This working group, okay, that was referenced at your LDFA meeting. It's nothing more than a group of people who have been promoting economic development in our region, in our county, in our township, like we have been for eons. Just people coming together and identifying some challenges with certain properties that are gonna need to be remedied before they can become marketable to any potential purchaser. That FEMA study is just one of those issues. It was one of my concerns, and I'm sure many of you share this, as Wayne County does its thing and Huron Township does its thing, and everybody's kind of doing their own thing. They're busy and they're kind of working on the same issue, but sometimes we don't come together as often as we should to make sure we're on the same page and foster that communication. So at my encouragement, and in talking with Rob Luce of the Aerotropolis, I said, could I please have the audience keep their comments to themselves? Thank you. So what I suggested is we get folks from Huron Township, our LDFA, folks at Wayne County, including the treasurer's office, Colleen, because of, you've been spending a lot of time on this issue, together to, on a more frequent basis, to make sure we're all on the same page with these particular matters. So there's no votes that are taking, it's not a secret committee, there's no secret handshakes or, entrances into the building, just people getting together, having conversations, trying to solve problems that we all know exist out there. It's nothing more than that. And I think that, one of the challenges that we have with our partners at the county is sometimes we don't have as many conversations together with all the principals in the same room as we should. So Colleen, when we're dealing with the back taxes and, how frustrating that's been, so actually getting the right people in the room at the same time, discussing the back taxes and the possible reversion and forfeitures that are at issue, and what are options going forward, so that Wayne County and the township and everybody's appraised of our different options, so we can make intelligent decisions. So that's all this working group is about, and I'm encouraged, Colleen, that you'll be at the meeting, and David, you'll be there as well, just to kind of give you a flavor of what we're doing. In fact, we only had one initial meeting just to kind of see if this is a good thing to continue to do, which I think it happens to be. So really, it's just focuses on communication, just getting the parties together on a frequent basis. So that's really all it is. And for those who expected more from that, or sorry to disappoint you, but that's all it is. So that meeting next week, again, having to in part identify challenges out on these properties, includes the FEMA study and some of these other issues regarding the forfeiture and all those, and trying to be proactive so that as these timelines come upon us, that we have some arrows in our quiver, and we have some options that this board will be able to exercise. And the whole idea is to bring options to this board, who's gonna be making the decisions. No one's gonna be making decisions for us. Here in Township, we'll be making the decisions. So, that's, in a nutshell, what that's all about, so.
Will our council be at our workshop meeting that we're scheduling?
Our council meeting, Kevin,
Yeah, our council, fully.
if you want him there, we can have him there. That's entirely up to us, but if you see a need for it, I'm not so sure that,
I
we
just
need
think
him.
rather than, if we're not gonna make a motion to have him investigate the process, at least if he's at this workshop, he can kinda guide us if any questions arise. We can
Okay.
turn and ask him as opposed to
I th-
sending him requests
Yeah.
every other week.
I think we're at a more fundamental level, and that is simply from a policy standpoint, from a strategy standpoint, do we want to maintain the LDFA structure? I don't think that's so much a legal issue as it is a policy issue, which this legislative body is certainly suitable to make. Should this body decide on a particular course of action, it would require guidance from our township attorney, and I think at that point, we would certainly invoke his services. But it doesn't matter to me if Kevin's at our meetings. I just don't see it as necessary, but, I'm open to that. So,
Would
May I add
trust-
one? Oh.
Would trustee Patterson consider revising his motion to direct it, rather than to the township board, to the study session?
For his process to be reported at the study session?
Mhm.
All right, I have no problem with that.
who seconded the motion?
I did.
Okay, and then you'll, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so we have a revised motion and then the revised support for that. I don't know, I think we've had plenty of discussion on it, and so I think it'd be proper to call the vote, so. So this simply would be referring it to the committee.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. Trustee Sean.
I appreciate it if our residents can get an update on what's going on with the senior bus. If anybody knows.
When we get some additional information from Wayne County, we'll certainly pass that on to you.
Thank you.
Did we get the funds yet? No, okay.
It's part of my, this whole county thing.
All right.
Callie?
Okay, just a couple things. The Parks and Recreation Commission is planning to do revisions to their master plan. We have to do them every 5 years. And so we are putting together a survey, which we already put together the survey, and it will be available online on the township website. I'm hoping starting tomorrow, and that there will be copies in the township hall, and I'm also putting it on the Huron Hub, and I think they're even putting it on Facebook. I would really appreciate if the community would take the few minutes and fill this out and let us know what your recreational needs are. This is very, very helpful to us. Also, the Parks and Rec are also, we had one scheduled that didn't go through. It was just too short of a time to advertise, but we're doing the archery fun shoot again. and it will be on October 21st. We're hoping to fill 2 sessions. The first one starts at 12:30. This is free, and it's for ages 9 and up. You can bring your own equipment, or they will have equipment there, and this is going to be at the Big Rock Archery on the 21st. Also, just wanted to let you know that the feds have increased their rates again for the 3rd time this year due to the stronger market, which is really good for us because my interest rate goes up on all of our monies now, so that's a good thing. And with that, I'm finished.
Any other comments before we go
I-
into closed session?
I have one comment, just to make the board aware. Brian Coyer, our legal counsel for LDFA, who is well-versed in the topics we discussed tonight, will be there at the workshop, so we'll have 2 high-powered attorneys there to spread some knowledge.
So, okay, this meeting's getting expensive.
Yes.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of discussing pending litigation.
So moved.
In the matter of Infinity Hawthorne Woods LLC versus Huron Township.
Support.
That's the one.
Roll call, please.
Katie, yes. McLennan.
Yes.
Supervisor Glade.
Yes.
Schott.
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Trustee Glade.
Yes.
Lazier.
Yes.
Let's go.
So we'll need a motion to
So
reconvene.
moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
McLennan,
Yes.
Supervisor Glabe,
Yes.
Shant,
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Trustee Glabe,
Yes.
Lazier. Katie, yes.
Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, too.
Take care.